You are listening to the Savage FINcast, Episode 14, The Supremecast.
Chicago. A criminal mastermind called Overlord held our city in his terrifying grip. Ordinary cops were losing the battle against Overlord's super freaks and mutants. Then, a miracle happened. When I found him, he had no memory of his past. I helped him find an identity and a life. Now we have a fighting chance. Now we have the dragon.
This is the Savage FINcast, coming in for a Supreme episode, because we're going to talk about Supreme.
And that's all we're going to talk about.
So move over, Savage Dragon.
There's a new sheriff in the town for an episode.
I am Jim Purcell.
I'm Craig Olson.
And I'm Raven Perez.
And this is the Savage Supremecast.
Savage Supremecast. Mark it. Episode 1, last episode.
First and last.
In fact, as we get into this Supreme FINcast Supreme-isode, let's get right into Erik Larsen news. Erik Larsen's Supreme Run, which we've just had the pleasure to have experienced, is going to be collected in a hardcover. It will run 160 pages for $25, or $24.99 if you want to be specific. And it will collect Supreme 63 through 68, and it will it'll have every cover, as well as Alan Moore's final script, which was used in issue 63. So it sounds like a pretty nice little package.
Yeah, because didn't Erik and Cory both, with the exception of 68, they both had covers for every episode, right?
I think that's true.
That's cool. That'll be a nice little
I think 67 only had one cover.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But yeah, that should be cool. It doesn't say anything about showing Erik's layouts. That would have been kind of cool too, like he did at the end of 67.
Right. Does it say anything about being oversized, or is it just a hardcover?
It just says hardcover. Yeah, it doesn't. I didn't think it said oversized. Which I thought was weird too. Is like, are they just skipping the trade and going straight to like a hardcover?
Well, no. Usually you do a hardcover first and then a softback later. If that's typically how that goes, or at least that's how it goes at other publishers, other companies. Granted, a lot of the time at Image you'll get a paperback of the collection, and then if it gets like super popular, it'll get a hardcover later. Usually you'll get like a deluxe hardcover that collects like multiple trades worth of material. But in this case, I think they're going straight to hardcover for the first release, and then probably a paperback later.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they use for a cover for this, if it's going to be something new.
Right.
Or...
I find it interesting that it's called Volume 1, because that's what it's titled as. It's Supreme Volume 1, which is just kind of odd, because it isn't Volume 1. It's
because it collects Supreme 63 to 68.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, I don't know. It's funny because I guess you could technically not know about the previous Supreme runs. Well, but no, not really.
But that's really what it comes down to, isn't it? I mean, this is the first Supreme material to be collected in a trade, really. I mean, people want the Alan Moore stuff collected at some point in the future. So it's kind of odd that they're putting out this one first. I mean, it's probably a practical reason to capitalize on it.
It should just be the cover, Craig, should just be Alan Moore scowling.
Scowling?
Disapprovingly. Like he's not happy.
Oh, okay.
Right. And then you could be like a gatefold, instead of coming out to the left or right, it could just be his beard, and it would gatefold down. Supreme Volume 1, hurrah.
Poor Alan Moore.
I would buy the crap out of that.
I'd buy 2.
No, it's interesting. I'm personally not sure if I'm going to buy it, because I'm kind of off getting hardcovers right now. A year ago,
Yeah.
I would have been into it because I was going through a bit of a hardcover fetish phase, but I've sort of grown out of it.
You're all into super digital
I am.
now,
I'm burning
man.
all my books.
You're 21st century digital boy.
He is from the future. I feel primitive talking to him. iPad, what's that?
But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be buying this hardcover. I'm a sucker for hardcovers still, so I think it will look kind of cool on my shelf, and it'll be nice to read it as one run.
It is nice to finally get a hardcover of, well, there's been hardcover Dragon trades, but not recently for Erik Larsen material.
Right.
So the binding on this one probably won't fall apart.
Yeah.
As some of the paperbacks.
A couple of those hardcovers fell right up, or the trades, right? The glue just
dries up and the pages just flake out.
Oh, it's no good. I've never had a hardcover, so that's really like.
I don't think it's the hardcovers.
Hardcovers are usually stitched, so generally they don't fall apart as easily. Paperbacks are generally glued, and so once the glue dries out, the pages just kind of fall out.
Oh, okay, I see. I thought you were talking about the hardcovers.
No.
Okay.
No, it should be a really cool book. I mean, it's got a good price point. I mean, there's a lot of material in there for $25.
Yeah. Yep, and it will be probably even cheaper on Amazon.
You can probably pick that up for $18 when it comes out.
Right. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'll definitely get it. Hopefully the extra material is kind of cool. It never seems like guys write like any kind of forwards anymore or epilogues anymore.
I like the forward in a trade.
Yeah, remember all the Dragon trades used to have the forwards in them and stuff like that. And it's kind of neat to see.
Some books have them.
Whatever.
I think Usagi Yojimbo trades still have them, which is always nice to read. Yeah. And it's good. It's interesting to have other people talk about other things, other books, the book they're forwarding about.
Yeah. No, I mean, there were like a bunch of cool guys that did forwards for Dragon trades. I think Kirkman, Kurt Busiek. I think Steranko might have done one.
I haven't bought any recent trades. There haven't been forwards in them?
Not the recent ones, no. Recent ones are bare bones, just trade collections, but...
I personally, it is like, I super cannot stand when a trade is bare bones. Because it's just like, what is the point,
Well, to get the story. I mean, I get the point.
Stupid story, I want extras.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you bought these singles, you generally want the extras. But if you didn't buy the singles, you don't care. But it's a toss-up, and I do think more is better. And forwards and afterwards definitely add to that. They're kind of like the commentary tracks for comic books.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the one thing that bothers me about the recent Dragon trades, not that they're bare bones, is that they're not even numbered anymore.
That is a problem.
They're just titled.
I think they have the issue numbers clearly stated on the back of the book, but don't
I'm sure they do, but it's.
I don't mind it as much
nice
as long as you know exactly what issues are reprinted, because then you can just compare them in the store.
That's true.
But you do have to do a little bit of reading and research on the spot. Sometimes it can be confusing for people just glancing. But I understand why, in many respects, why he had to do that.
Right.
Because people are like antsy-pants about buying volume 15.
Numbers are daunting. They scare people when they're higher than one. Guys, it's kind of a segue, but did you guys know, what's the word? Skull Kickers. They're having their third number one solicited for April. The Mighty Skull Kickers number one.
I like
the third number one?
Did like 3 in a row. They did the first one was Uncanny, and then the Savage, and now Mighty.
Oh, and it's a whole different inside?
It's the same series. It's a joke, because it's also got a flip cover. On the other side is the regular cover with the regular.
Oh, but it's the same issue in all of them.
Oh, yeah. No, what they did was Uncanny Skull Kickers number one is the first issue of the arc. Savage Skull Kickers number one is the second issue.
Oh, all right. So the insides are different. It's a whole different issue.
And I believe either they're flip books with regular covers with regular numbering, or they have variant covers that are the proper numbering.
That's
Milk
genius
and Cheese
on
did
their
that.
part.
Like Milk and Cheese had Milk and Cheese's second number one.
Yeah.
And then they had like Milk and Cheese's third number one, and I think it maybe even went fourth, and it was like Milk and Cheese's fourth number one. We swear this is the last number one.
I think I remember that.
That's
I like it though. What's funny too is they've gone the extra mile to like have their covers ape the cover art of like the other issues.
The Marvel issues, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's been fairly humorous, yes. So moving on, a bit of a personal news for us Fincasters and people who post on the forums.
So our buddy Gavin Higginbotham is named Savage Dragon editor, and you guys who are big fans of Dragon that go on the forums know Gavin as pretty much the super fan of Savage Dragon. He's the guy that pretty much knows everything. I think he's read the series about 500 times, front to back. He's also been on the FINcast a couple of times. Unfortunately, he lives over in England, so whenever we record, it's like 3 a.m. for him, so it's tough for him to get on. But anyway, like I said, he's a Savage Dragon superfan. He's the co-creator of the Savage Dragon wiki page. He's an occasional Fincaster, and he's been named, like you said, quote-unquote editor of Savage Dragon by Erik Larsen. Basically, Gavin's been keeping tabs on Dragon continuity and characters for many years now, and I developed the wiki using all of Gavin's profiles that he on his own time wrote for almost every single Savage Dragon character, and so he's got this whole like database of all the characters, and he knows what, when, and where for Savage Dragon. And I think Erik's been kind of going to him now for a while to help him kind of figure out, who's alive, who's dead, and because Erik's got about 6,000 villains in his book. Most of them have appeared in 1 or 2 panels.
Most of them are dead.
And and dead now, but Gavin's really been helping him out on that. So it's kind of like a token of appreciation. He's listed inside the credits as editor. And just to pull a quote out of the website comicbook.com, Larsen stated, "He's not the editor in the traditional sense. It's more of a case of him helping me keep track of stuff and remind me of things I missed. He's acting as a continuity cop of sorts, and it's very much appreciated. He's been doing this for a while now, and I just thought I should make it official." So that's pretty dang cool of Larsen to do that, and I know Gavin's got to be ecstatic to see his name right next to Josh Eichhorn's name. So that's a cool thing. Congrats to Gavin, and that's just really cool. It's cool to see that happen. Maybe we should get him on the podcast to talk about what he's been doing with Erik, and to congratulate him in person, maybe down the line.
Ask him, what like privileges he enjoys now. Does he get to use a special bathroom? Is there a private jet he has access to now?
He gets like the Royal Brotherhood of the Fin crown to wear or something.
It gives
goes
him
to the Fin law. He joins the Church of Christ. He's an altar boy now. The Church of Dragon, whatever that is. What is it? The Church of Savage Dragon?
Something like that.
Right. When he dies, he gets what he wants. What if he's already died?
He gets a bevy of supermodels.
Leggy supermodels. Also, no, I was gonna go further and just say ridiculous like image related things, but I'm done. We'll skip it. Like
What?
I was gonna say stuff like, yeah, he gets to Rob Liefeld gives him piggyback rides. McFarlane lets him touch those baseballs.
McFarlane lets him drive the Spawnmobile.
He gets a cop a feel off the Madonna bra. Congratulations, you're the editor. Grab him.
All right.
Tune into Tokyo, Gavin. cover in Solicitation was released for Savage Dragon 187. Should be seeing that in April. The Vicious Circle Rising. A glimpse into the lives of Chicago's notorious criminal organization. For decades, the Vicious Circle has all but ruled the Windy City. Now, at last, we enter their world, see through their eyes. We see their struggles, their fears, the obstacles they face. Introducing the sons and daughters of the Vicious Circle. We see the crime family they were born to inherit and the forces who oppose them. Comes with our highest possible record. You know I couldn't do it the whole way through. Comes with our highest possible recommendation. You gotta get it. If you see the cover, it's an awesome cover. It has all the kids of the Vicious Circle. Some of them have a familial resemblance. And Dragon fans will recognize like Cutthroat, Open Face, Inferno, their Spawn. You can see they kind of look like them. So it's really cool. It's part of what makes this book cool is that, we always brag on that real-time factor, but the existing cast is getting old. They're dying off. They're retiring, quitting, and looks like their kids are going to pick up the mantle. So this is sweet. Very excited.
Yeah, I'm super into what's being stated here. Like, I really want to see, through the eyes of the Vicious Circle. I want to see what goes on. I mean, they've been around since the beginning of Dragon, so it's cool to get a chance to see, some of a glimpse into like their daily routine or whatever, if that's how he's gonna do it. But anything with Vicious Circle in it, I'm down for. I really like having them in the book.
I want to know who the girl in the coat is, and if she's a girl.
Yeah,
she's dumpy,
and
right?
She's kind of dumpy, but for some reason I still think it's a girl. Maybe it's the long hair.
You think are there octopus tentacles under there, do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, someone mentioned that. I think that's what it is.
Think it's Octopus's
honestly.
kid?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Octopussy?
First
Jesus.
Awesome. Good for you, Jim. Because I was thinking it and you said it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be cool. You saw those? Didn't those two debut together? Like, wasn't that where you first saw them?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And Octopus.
Their dads were always together, so it makes sense their kids would roll together.
Cool. So that's the news. One little last tidbit, and I know it's not really Savage Dragon related, but it's FINcast related. I just wanted to congratulate Raven on a successful Kickstarter campaign for his Dojo comic. Yeah, so congrats, dude. That was really awesome. Is that going to be available down the road to people who didn't get in on the Kickstarter, or? It
sure is. It's going to be available through, you could just get it, right through ravensdojo.com. I'll actually be, selling them out of my house. So, that's, it couldn't have been any more like Disney movie last second, but.
Oh man, that was like getting close. Remember, there was like a week left and I'm like, I don't know if he's going to.
There were 6 hours. There were 6 hours. We did 4,000 in a day and like 2,800 in that last 6 hours.
That's awesome. Congrats on that, man. I'm super stoked for you that you getting to publish that, not having to like find a different channel to do it through.
Well, any dojo fans, out there, thanks a kabillion, like absolutely. Even the people who didn't donate, thank you guys. Because every single, as tight as it was, it came down to the wire. So as close as it was, everything mattered. So thanks so much. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Can't wait to see it printed. So, shall we move on to our discussion about Supreme 67 and 68?
Yes.
Supreme.
Let me boot up my iPad.
Allow me to grab my
flaunting it in our face.
He's just like, you see him swiping and tapping.
But no, I bring that up because it's funny, because I had no intention of getting Supreme 67 and 68 digitally. My intention was to finish out the series in print, because I'm gradually trying to transition from print at like clean break points, And so I've got the last 5 issues or 4 issues in print, so why break now? But what happened was my local shop got bought by another party, and there has been a massive snafu with Diamond orders over the last month. And so nothing has been coming in. So in order to keep up, I had no choice but to switch now. And so that's what I did.
Right.
And frankly...
Isn't technology grand?
Yeah, frankly, I'm not too disappointed because the quality is wonderful.
They do look really good. Something you may not know, and I wouldn't know myself, except every now and then I'll just get like impatient and I'll like get the digital copy too. But colorists color like in RGB mode to take advantage of like how stuff's gonna look digital. So, but they take prints and considered too. Obviously, you don't want it to look like crap in print. But every now and then you'll get your hands on a digital comic and it looks even better.
Yeah.
Just more vibrant.
And I gotta say, Supreme 67 is very vibrant.
I can imagine.
So yeah, Supreme 67. This is the big one. This is the one apparently we've all been waiting for. Supreme versus Invincible's Omni-Man.
Right. And I gotta say that Cory Walker's design of Omni-Man's most recent suit is pretty ingenious in the fact that he just doesn't wear shoes. He doesn't care. He's like got super hard Superman feet. He doesn't need shoes. He just needs to be comfortable.
That's it. I mean, everybody, it was funny. The Invincible fans are torn because I've seen both people. Like, people were like, it's genius. Other people were like, I hate it. It makes nothing but sense to me.
Frankly, in the real world, they probably should just run around Speedos, but I don't think that would go over too well.
It just sets him apart, his design, from anyone else, and it makes sense, and it's just like, it's just cool. It's just,
That's kind of the way that whole book is. I mean, they just like, you'll see superheroes doing stuff that just makes sense, but hasn't really been done.
Right. It's amazing for as long as superhero books have been around that they're still finding, like, new ways to do things.
Well, of course, we should keep in mind that on the cover, Omni-Man is wearing his original costume from way back in Invincible #1, which is very much Superman colors with the boots and the gloves and the chest logo. But inside, what he's wearing is the prisoner jumpsuit that he was given when he was captured by the Viltrumites.
Is that what it is? No, that's
he's actually got his COP logo. So
I thought it was a modification of the prison jumpsuit.
No, that's his Coalition of Planets, COP, right?
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
But I think you're right. There's an element of truth there to both of them. I think that the shoelessness started with the prison.
All right.
But then he just kept it. So I think that's his COP outfit, but the shoelessness did, I think. I mean, I couldn't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure that's
I'm not going to dig up my Viltrumite War books to verify that.
Not on your iPad,
I'm not there yet. I got to sell them all to replace them.
Exactly. They'll get there. I mean, I would do it too. This was the one I was waiting for. I mean, personally, the minute they announced Supreme, I was like, well, he's just got to fight Omni-Man.
Definitely.
Image had never had another, like, Superman caliber character since Supreme, really. I mean, that I can think of.
That's like a headliner.
Yeah, I mean, you got your Solar Man, and you got your... trying to think your other Superman types, because there's a few.
From Image.
Yeah, from Image.
But not like an A-list Image guy.
Captain Dynamo from Noble Causes and Dynamo 5. He's sort of a Superman type. I mean, there's a few.
Definitely, though, you could say, would it be fair to say, Omni-Man is like bigger news than any of those. Oh, yeah,
most definitely. I mean, based on the fact that how popular Invincible is, he's definitely the guy for Supreme.
Yeah. He's Image Superman, so... The minute I saw Supreme, I was like, hell yes.
So, we basically open up where 66 left off with Omni-Man stepping in to stop Mean Supreme from beating down Suprema.
This is gonna be an awesome recap because there's just so many pages of people punching
Yeah,
people.
there's quite a bit of that. And, actually, it's funny you bring up punching because right from the get-go, Mean Supreme is wailing on Omni-Man because he doesn't like Omni-Man sticking his nose in. Mean Supreme is he doesn't like other people telling him what to do. You may have gathered. So
Who does?
Yeah, I like how like the first 4 panels of the fight is just like you said, it's Supreme wailing on Omni-Man, and then the 5th panel, Omni-Man grabs his fist, and then you have to turn the page with a splash of Omni-Man just belting Supreme so hard that his cape folds in between his legs.
I love the cape wedgie. Is that not hilarious?
It's like, look at it, I guess it just snapped his head back so fast that his kind of went, I don't know.
The physics make sense. I mean,
Yeah.
he's getting punched so hard, he's getting the wedgie.
yeah, the cape stayed still while he moved backwards. It's actually a pretty good indication of how much energy and speed is involved. It's pretty cool, actually. And remember
The colors here are awesome.
Yeah, the what?
The colors in these opening pages are freaking great.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's very colorful. It's I kind of like how Cory's done the sky here. Oh, we should probably mention the fact that this issue apparently was drawn by Cory himself without using Erik's roughs.
Well, he used them for like the first 6 pages. I think.
Did he? Because here's the thing. Previous issues, it's very obvious that Cory is trying to ape Erik's style. This issue is very much Cory's style. You can definitely see he's opening up to the way he draws.
On the printed version, they give you a peek behind the curtain with Erik's roughs. Do you have that on the digital?
Yes, I believe that's in the last page is here.
Yeah, so they match up. You can compare them. If you're reading the book, you can compare Erik's roughs with Cory's, which Erik's roughs just kind of is our guideline for Cory on how to position the characters, and so all of the layout of everything is based on Erik's layouts, but it's not.
You
like
are right about
Cory.
that. It is very similar, but I don't know. It's like if you compare Erik's roughs to page 2 to Cory's page 2. Like that Larsen hand of Omni-Man's, it's like up in the foreground. Doesn't really look like a Larsen hand, which in my mind would have in previous issues.
Right, because I don't think Cory is like tracing over any of this and just like inking it. He's basically just redrawing it based on the poses and the layouts that Erik's kind of given him the storyboards, and he's just redrawing it based on the poses. Which I think is cool. Yeah, layouts.
Right. I mean, he was doing that before, but I guess in my mind it was more obvious that he was being closer to Erik's style, whereas this issue it's not. I don't know. It's just that was just an immediate gut reaction I had looking at the art compared to previous issues.
Gotcha.
I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair evaluation. I see what you mean with the fist and the big fist and the hand.
And like the square fingers, like Erik does, they aren't. I would think that would be more pronounced in previous issues, but in this one, it's much more Cory style with the more realistically rendered fingers. I guess less foreshortening.
I see what you're saying, but the thing I can tell usually is like I can tell Erik's layouts as opposed to other people's.
Right.
Like, I can tell Erik laid out something. Like, I can tell he did the first 6 pages. And then when you look towards the end of the book, just certain ways, Erik just doesn't draw like that. I haven't, like, you can see Erik's poses from reading, almost 200 issues of Savage Dragon. I can just tell the way he, poses guys. And I can look at a page and be like, well, it doesn't really look like the way Erik would pose something.
Right.
Yeah.
Would lay something out. So, it's definitely cool to see, like, half the book with Erik's layouts and half the book Cory on his own.
Fair enough. True. Okay, so fight's going on. Omni-Man gets turned around, and then Squeak the Supreme Mouse.
Best character
I
ever.
like him a lot. He's got a great character design.
So when you read his speech bubbles, how do you read the yeek part?
Like he's inhaling.
Do you actually read it out loud, or do you skip over it and just read?
I hear it in my head.
I kind of hear
like,
it too.
Yeek!
It's like he's whistling through his nose, or he's like inhaling through his teeth. I don't know. That's kind of how I hear it.
He's like diet yeek soda, skim yeek milk. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I just love how he looks like Mickey Mouse on like steroids.
That was what I was gonna say. It's just
like,
hilarious. His face.
It's so stylized in like the Walt Disney Mickey Mouse version.
But he's got like human eyes and like makes I don't know. I found his design to be. I mean, he's got like a human face, but he's got like Mickey Mouse ears. So like he's wearing white face with like a black on his nose, and like he's like humanoid more so than Mickey Mouse would be, I guess.
Yeah. But it's just the ears, like no other mouse, like no one else draws like mice ears like that. You know what I mean?
And they're just black circles. They don't got any kind of hole for sound or anything. They're just black discs.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. It's like such a obvious like Mickey Mouse rip, like just the head.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of Alan Moore's Squeak, and I can't. I'm like trying to Google image search it. I just think I can't find it. But like I feel like he was much more like Mighty Mouse.
Oh really?
Yeah, much more like that's how he sort of looked. But this is awesome. Like you said, the realistic face. It's just so weird, like off-putting.
Now here's what I don't get. Like, am I missing something here? Like they're just like talking away, and then, Squeak's like, oh, your sister Suprema's at death's door, lying on the side of a mountain while Suprema's mixing it up with Omni-Man. How does he know that? And why is he just chilling if he does know that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how that struck me as weird, but at the same time,
are they like connected somehow, or I just don't have the background with Supreme.
I don't know. It was kind of weird to me, and also the phrase "at death's door" for some reason, because it gets used multiple times and it's just kind of there. But it is kind of weird in the timing of this scene, and I guess we're supposed to take from this that Supreme and Omni-Man have been fighting for a while, and that Suprema's already been picked up by somebody, and yet somehow Squeak found out about it. Maybe.
But when they drive over to get her, she's still laying on the side of the mountain.
Is she? Oh, you're right. Yeah. You're right. So how does he know?
And why isn't anyone, like, if it was something that was like broadcast on the news, why didn't somebody else like help her?
Right.
That's the only thing about this issue I'm just not understanding.
Yeah, it does seem like a bit of a cheat to just get them on the scene. But, I don't know, space constraints. I guess you got to move things forward. I don't think there's supposed to be any kind of explanation. It's just he knows through some...
I wanted to say, and this is kind of the thing that maybe he was getting at, because it's weird, this whole nebulous. The problem is that it wasn't super defined on Alan Moore's run, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is with the retcons, is that the retcons were kind of like, in the beginning of Alan Moore's Supreme, it was kind of like a whole new world, and this spills over into the second issue, so I didn't think I should bring it up until a little bit later. Maybe I'll get into more detail and just chop it off real quick. But to say that the fact that Squeak here is kind of like talking about, Suprema and all that stuff, and then like Ethan's trying to draw samples, in a way what's happening here is that like Ethan is kind of like, and he even asked him, he's like, you've given up, Ethan's kind of like sliding into this new continuity,
right?
Like, as a not powered guy,
right?
Meanwhile, Mean Supreme is this new version of continuity Supreme, whereas Squeak here is still very much, he's even saying, everybody looks at me weird, I don't like it, he's not fitting in with this new continuity.
Right.
I didn't know if that was an intentional thing, but that was the difference.
I think it is. I mean, he's definitely like. So Ethan again was skipping ahead to issue 68, but you find out that his drawing ability just sucks now. So it's probably linked to his powers that he had. You know, he was probably such a great artist because he had supervision or whatever. You know, he had superpowers. So now he's, like you said, he's kind of turning into that just normal guy, and it's just. And then you saw in the previous issue where what's his girlfriend's name? What's her name? Not
her girlfriend. His girlfriend, the one that left him.
She's losing her memories of her time with him. So everyone's kind of just melding into the new reality.
Right. And that's what's kind of different about Erik's run on Supreme. And like I said, at first it's kind of confusing, but what's so different about what happened on Alan Moore's run and on this run is in Alan Moore's run, like when there was a new reality, there was no existence or proof of the old reality. So everybody was just cool. Everybody was chill. Everybody was on the same page. And if you were from any old continuity or whatever, you were in the Supremacy.
Gotcha.
The difference here, and I guess it does lead to confusion, but like I said, or like you said too, in 68 there's a lot more of that. They touch on it again a lot, is that these are characters that came out of the Supremacy. So they're, unlike in the previous version, they're not just fitting into place. They're not really just changing. They're actually kind of struggling with, fitting in with this new reality. So it's confusing. But
yeah, they're screwing things up by being there. Like they're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, they were never Mean Supreme is the Supreme of this new rollout.
Right.
So these guys aren't really the way things worked in the previous run. They're not even really supposed to be a thing.
Well, I think I mentioned that when we talked about Supreme 66, when Ethan goes to his apartment and it's a big hole in the ground.
It's missing. Yeah.
Because the universe itself has no place for him.
That's a great point. Yeah, you did say that. Yeah. So I think it's funny because it's confusing, and at first it seems like maybe mistakes are weird, but when you think about kind of things in that way, it's actually like, I was thinking about it. I don't know. Like I said, I was reading these and I was like, wow, this run is probably not going to get a lot of love for its writing or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
But if you read like Alan Moore's Supreme, it's kind of impressive how, given there really wasn't too much rules or definition, it's kind of cool how they did actually, Erik took a lot of those ideas and he did, that they're taken into consideration with these issues. He didn't throw it all away. I mean, it's stuff that happened in those is totally affecting these issues. So
right. Yep.
That's what I think happened in those 2 pages, is that kind of sort of Ethan is just sliding into the normal continuity by drawing samples. And Squeak's like, dude, we got to help Suprema.
So that brings up that's an interesting point. And it does suggest that maybe because these guys are outside of this universe's rules, maybe they are connected in some way, and that's how Squeak seems to have some sort of omnipresent knowledge of what Suprema's up to.
I would say that that's entirely possible, only because, see, the big gimmick of Supreme, and if it's in other comics, I haven't read it anywhere else, but the big gimmick of Alan Moore's Supreme was that this was a superhero that this was the story that took place after continuity revision. So it was kind of like, even though the whole revision happened, it was the story of what happens to your favorite characters after their book gets rebooted.
Right.
So it's absolutely about that. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Just got to think of it in that way, which is weird and confusing because, like I said, other comics just they're not written that way.
This comic is just so meta.
So after 2 pages of meta commentary that makes us scratch our heads, we turn to some more nice and easy 2 guys punching each other.
So I did arc. Would you say, if you had to guess, would you guess these are Cory pages? I think they are.
Yeah.
They're different, but they're good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I do not want to be the people living in the upper stories of that building that snapped in half.
Yeah, that sucks. So the people in the cab, that poor cab driver.
Hope his meter's running.
Gets tossed.
Bazing.
And there's your Brackabadoom.
Yep. I think there's a whole lot of Thrackachooms and Thracooms and Brackabadooms in here. Tons of chunks of rock.
The most variations on that in an issue.
I like how we see Supreme shoot him with heat, Omni-Man with heat vision, and you realize that Omni-Man doesn't have heat vision.
No, that's the one thing Omni-Man doesn't have, are eye powers.
I also like that visual. It's like a Cyclops blast, but just the furrowed brow above it.
Yeah, it's yeah, and, there's something about this page doesn't. I don't know if it seems like over-rendered or maybe or something. It just, the coloring seems a little different from previous pages.
Yeah, this one page, it seems like something's.
It's like it's darker somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
It does in print too.
It does?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Probably a minor thing. It seems like it was like drawn small and then blown up, maybe. I don't know. It just seemed a little.
I can't tell from looking at it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, there's some weird.
It's just a little blurry.
There's a really weird perspective thing going on here, where basically Omni-Man looks like a giant with this little tiny city and this little tiny toy car next to his hand. I don't know. It's just a weird perspective thing where the city looks tiny.
There's something going on with like the tangents or something.
Yeah.
You think like
I can't even. I'm not an artist, so I can't describe it. I know the city's supposed to look far away, but
I see what you're saying. There's no overlap. There's no overlap between Supreme and the city, so that's what's happening to your eye.
So if Supreme's fist was in front of a building, it would look. It wouldn't make it look as like a tiny
right.
city.
Yep.
It would definitely help drive home the fact that he's in the foreground.
Right.
So that's sort of what's happening. Yeah, I see what you mean.
It looks like Supreme's like behind a tiny city. I don't know. It's
junior art critics for like quarterback coaching it. I forgot about your cursed heat vision.
Arg.
I will say that I wanted these two to be a bloody mess.
Yeah.
That's the only thing is I am amazed actually at how bloodless this is, because when two Viltrumites fight, it's a damn bloodbath.
Yeah.
Would you not agree? I mean, and I'm not saying I knew that like you kind of know the rules, like they're not going to be punching each other's guts out and stuff.
Right.
As is wont to happen in Invincible.
Right.
But I just thought there'd be some mouth blood or nose blood or something. This is a pretty bloodless fight.
We got a little bit of blood, like I think on the very, like the third page of the book. There's blood coming out of Omni-Man's mouth when Supreme hits him, but that's about it.
Yep.
I was surprised. That was my main thing. I'm not disappointed in like the action. I mean, it's pretty good like action considering. Yep. But I was really surprised at the lack of blood.
Well, considering how messed up Suprema's face looks in the following scene, that's kind
which I think looks really, really cool.
Well, cool as in very, very brutal.
Yeah, I just like the inking job on it and stuff. Like it was a good job on the drawing. I think it looks neat.
It is cool. It has like the blacked out eyes and stuff.
Yeah. She just looks like a mess.
The blood spatter. This is a cool effect. Good Lord, choke.
Choke. Oh, yeah. That's like...
I love choke.
It's like a
Good Lord, choke.
70s-ism or something.
Ethan's that kind of guy, I guess. Good Lord, choke. My sister.
But yeah, in this scene, they find Suprema and... I guess Sister Supreme's with them, and they're in a Jeep, and they take her to a hospital, which strikes me as an odd thing to take a superhuman to, just to a regular hospital. But that's just me.
Well, where else would they go though?
I don't know.
Is there superhuman hospitals? Dragon goes to the hospital all the time.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. I was totally like, yeah, Jim's right. What? How wrong? And then, bam, You're right. Dragon is in the normal hospital like every other issue.
But you got to think there should be a superhuman hospital. There's like superhuman prisons and whatever else. Wouldn't it make sense to have some kind of superhuman hospital?
There's supervillain bars.
There you go. Yeah.
Of course, my big curiosity is how do you help a person with invulnerable skin? It's got to be problematic.
Jackhammer.
That's it. It was awesome is that, like, too, like, she's just been beaten to a pulp. So what do you do for somebody that's just suffered a severe beating? What's the treatment?
I don't know. I just clean up lacerations, stitch them together. I don't know.
I do like the panel of the Supremes, like, just in the Jeep. It's a good panel. I don't know. At first it seems weird, but you think, like, the whole thing is, like, these guys are really powerless, you know? They're just a bunch of normal dudes.
That's all they are. They have nothing.
They don't have hookups in this real world.
Let me ask you this. Was Lion-Headed Supreme just too good to hang out and help out?
What about Classic Supreme?
Yeah, those bastards.
Notice he's not there.
I guess they couldn't all fit in the Jeep, so...
Sorry, my Jeep only seats 4. Lionhead, Classic, you stay home. Where did this fight with Suprema? Wasn't it kind of not in a place you could drive to?
Well, they got like a Jeep, and it definitely looks like a barren mountain top somewhere. So I don't know. It's that they couldn't drive there. It's just there wasn't any buildings or a city there.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Just roll.
You know what it is? It's just too much time between this and the last issue. We forgot. That's it. That's not good. We forgot. Frackathun.
Yep, so we're back to the fight again, and now this page definitely looks mostly Cory. That, like you said, the composition is different when Cory does it himself. That second panel with Omni-Man smashing Supreme's face into a wall.
Erik doesn't do that stuff.
No, at least it's not that, I guess, how do I even describe it? I'm not an artist.
He just doesn't pose it that way. I don't know, like the layout is just, that's not... If I looked at that and you told me that Erik did that, I would be surprised.
Yeah, it does seem like it's not a very good economy of space on this page. The panel layout, anyway.
Well,
I guess Erik...
It's not a problem with me that I don't think it looks bad or anything like that. It's for me, I can tell, like, it's just, you follow an artist long enough, you can just get a feel for what his stuff is versus what someone else is. And I think the panel's fine, but I can tell that at least I think I can tell that Erik didn't have anything to do with the layout on it.
If that makes sense. Like, Erik tends to do a lot of, like, coming at you kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like the foreshortening and stuff like that.
Exactly. And this layout really, like, even if you flip to the beginning pages, which we have the roughs to sort of, prove that he did, those layouts. And there's a lot of, like, that. This doesn't really have, like, if I would guess, like, I don't know. Yeah, this is so presumptuous. It's ridiculous. But if I was going to guess, like, an Erik panel would have had, like, Supreme's face getting smashed, the more, like, coming at you.
You know, that's a good point. Yeah. There does seem to be a lack of foreshortening in this specific panel compared to ones that Erik would have roughed out.
It's still good.
I mean, it's good.
Really
it's definitely good. It's got good composition and good energy and all that good stuff that makes it look good. But you can definitely tell it wasn't Erik involved, I guess, in drawing the panel.
Coloring wise, I liked the this red panel. It really like made it kind of like a more brutal,
sinister looking. Yeah.
He's got a sinister look. That's a good. He looks kind of looking like a mad dog there. Omni-Man.
Yeah. He looks a little irritated.
And then there's a tiny panel at the bottom of the Thakadome where you see someone looking on, impressed by the fight. You don't know yet who it is. An onlooker is witnessing this clash of the titans.
I like these two pages. This page that we're talking about, for those who are... Hopefully we're clear of this with people who are like listening to this podcast. They're following along at home as we look at these pages. Otherwise, they probably have no clue what we're talking about. But I like the two pages in this issue where they're going at it, and it's Omni-Man's like, don't you see what you're doing? You see the damage you're causing, and then you turn the page, and Supreme's like, yeah, well, you're such a hypocrite because you've pretty much leveled cities fighting Invincible, and so you get that dynamic where, Omni-Man was almost like the original mean Supreme in a way. Well, not really the original, but was like a mean Supreme, when he first kind of, not first busted on the scene. I guess I'm getting all confused now, but at one point,
I'm totally with you.
At one point, Omni-Man was like an evil bastard, and
well, he wanted it to be deep down inside,
and even worse than Supreme, because Supreme is kind of like a good guy, but he just does things like in an evil way.
Right. I mean, he's trying to save people, quote unquote, but he's doing it by basically killing everyone who's a danger.
Right.
Whereas Omni-Man was trying to enslave the planet.
Right. So, he's probably killed countless amount of people, and so for him to kind of tell Supreme how to, handle his issues seems a little weird, I guess, to Supreme. It's like
right.
It is, yeah. Him calling him, it's a perfect thing. Neither of these dudes think they're wrong. That's what's great about it. Is really there's not like, even though this is mean Supreme, it's an awesome. I don't care if it was a success or a failure. I think that this run, short as it was, had loads of interesting stuff, and it's funny that the main guy was the villain of his own book.
Mm-hmm.
As close as he could get to a villain, he was still trying to do the right thing.
Is it a prerequisite that two like super strong guys always have to end up in a train yard during a battle?
It helps.
It does make for a cool visual though when they toss like train cars.
Or you just see like it is a cool panel of just like the trains like all like jaggedy on the tracks.
Yeah.
Raccoon. Isn't that almost like Rocket Raccoon?
Yeah, there's a lot of sound effects in this issue. But yeah, you're right about train yards. They do seem to be a popular hangout, but it is probably because drawing boxes is easy when you're throwing them around. And there's no one around, so no one gets hurt.
I think too, it's so funny? I'm thinking about that whole like continuity thing. As we are reading this, it's even more evident to me that is just in subtle ways. That's in this issue so much. Like the fact that Supreme says to him, I'm the champion of these people, ... alien.
Mm-hmm.
That's nothing that Mean Supreme should have known.
Well, he mentions earlier, he says, I seem to recall hearing of you nearly leveling an entire city. So, presumably, at some point, he heard about him.
But you got to think about what's happening here, though. Supreme is the Supreme of this book.
Right.
So, the universe, as the way Supreme is written, the universe is adjusting to him. It's his world. Everyone else is living
right,
in,
so
right?
He's already been here, and so he should just know this stuff?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of funny. Because even though it's so subtle, to like attack him like that, it seems to me kind of like, really realistically, we know that that's just information that Supreme is saying, like, these two never interacted before this. But I'm saying that's the way Supreme's kind of written, is that, like, he's kind of got information as if he always had it. So him calling him alien is definitely like, oh, he's up on things,
Right.
I don't know. Like I said, I feel like that's one more nod to that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
Sorry, I'm tripping on that.
That's cool. So, superheroes love to hang out in diners too. And
this page,
little,
do you know? Can just one of you two say what is the most awesome thing about this page?
About this page with Squeak and the rest.
Yeah, the diner.
Is it the Otto Octavius looking guy?
You mean, could it be the long-awaited return of Jughead of Shakes?
Oh, is that who it is? Could be.
Wouldn't you think?
I don't know.
He's got a shake.
Yeah. I was at Jim. I thought it was just like a Dr. Octopus type guy, but Could be.
You didn't take it to be Jughead of Shakes?
I thought maybe that was just too good to be true.
Too good. That'd just be too much value for my money. I'd have to mail them $5. No, I was. That's what got me stoked. I was like, Jughead of Shakes. As I read that, I was like, it's Jughead of Shakes. Fantastic.
That'd be sweet.
He's my John Day.
He needs to make a return.
You know, it's kind of interesting about this page because, they're talking about the supremacy and the implications of the fact that reality's been rewritten. Like, Sister Supreme mentions that she only had one adventure ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, apparently, I guess, I don't know a lot about Alan Moore's run, but these characters are self-aware of the fact they were comic book characters.
Ooh, I did want to point out that I do not have any recollection of them referring to their past life in comic form.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, somebody more knowledgeable than me would have to like call me out on that. So, listeners, comment on the forum if you know better than me. I don't remember it. They definitely like were aware of like their adventures, like, but I mean, she does, like you said, she literally says I was only featured in one story. Doesn't she later say issue too?
Squeak says, I had my own book for a while. Yeek.
Yeah, and I don't think that was the way it was. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit it, but I feel like they sort of talked about things still in terms of universes and stuff.
Right.
And not in terms of books. Like when the Supremacy first takes Ethan, it starts to like, pick him up in the beginning of the Alan Moore run. I don't feel like anybody was like, well, your book's ending, buddy. I feel like they were like, well, this reality is over for you. Come to the Supremacy. And I don't think they talked about things in terms of issues and books. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone correct me. It was weird.
Well, that's interesting.
Have they the rest of this? Have they at any point in the rest of this run?
I want to say that maybe it was suggested before, but I can't remember specifics.
Yeah, I don't know.
See, because it feels like it's funny. I definitely remember in the Alan Moore thing, they were aware of the Supremacy. They weren't aware of the Daxia, like the whole Daxia thing.
Right, that was new in issue 63. That was the last thing Alan Moore introduced, right, was Daxia. Right,
so in their little world, playing by its own, only Alan Moore knows all the rules, rule book. It wasn't like dimensions, all these other dimensions. It wasn't like a multiverse. It was the one reality, and it got overwritten.
Right.
And they would escape to the Supremacy. So when they're referring to their lives in terms of books and issues, I don't know. Someone would have to tell me. I don't remember it.
Gotcha.
That's interesting. So they have a chat. Mostly they're griping about being powerless, and Supreme has to be stopped. Squeak orders grilled cheese. Original Supreme seems really ticked off at how Mean Supreme is really pretty much an asshole. Probably his golden age sensibilities. I also like how you never see his pupils. He's always squinting.
Yeah, kind of like that C.C. Beck type thing.
Yeah.
So, they're planning something. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so they are coming up with some kind of plan. Then we cut to Omni-Man and Supreme again. And I love that splash page where they're just hitting each other with just the flash of light in the background. It's just awesome. The coloring's cool.
That is a great page.
It is. I love how it's got that kind of paint, the paint splatter effect that looks kind of like sparks.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's just cool. It's just a cool coloring job. It's pretty powerful stuff. It's really emphasizes that those two guys just punched each other so hard that they created a crater and knocked each other out.
And, it's awesome is like, really in this panel, Supreme's getting the, beat down. He's not really taking a fist to the face, it looks like. He's on his back in the next panel. So I guess
that's a
got
good
hit.
point about this page. I mean, I think what we're supposed to take away from them when the big Doom panel is that they're both hitting each other at the same time.
Yeah.
But Omni-Man's fist isn't really anywhere near Supreme's face, although I guess maybe it's a follow-through. Maybe his head got knocked back.
Yeah, that's how I'm taking it.
Maybe they're both already
just got
unconscious.
punched in the head.
That might be the case.
That's how I took it. They both, like, that Doom sound is them just punching each other. So that's just like the follow-through.
Yeah. And then we're back with the Supremes, and Darius Duck has returned.
That was the big shocker, is that they were going to team with evil.
Darius
An
Duck
evil
rules.
duck, anyway.
He's awesome.
He is fantastic. I just love that he has evil ears.
I like that he has hair, too.
Yeah. Most duck characters don't have hair.
All Daxes got that hair. Well, most Daxes.
Yeah. The red hair is kind of their thing.
It's like how he's black, kind of like Daffy. Like,
Yeah. Shouldn't he be like Squeak's, like Lex Luthor?
That's what he is. I believe that's his case. That's the
shouldn't-
case.
Shouldn't they hate each other more?
well, I mean, was there a Duck Supreme?
Exactly.
No, I'm pretty sure that Darius Duck and Squeak were antagonists. I think that's their whole deal. And you're probably right. Squeak probably doesn't make enough of a deal of the fact that Darius Duck is his arch nemesis. But I think that might just be didn't have enough time to dwell on it.
That's what kills me about this. I just feel like there was so much more.
That could have been done, yeah.
So many more, like, because it's awesome that, like, it's not just that it's a Darius, that a Dax survived. It's that, like, a Dax, like, with a direct connection to one of these, like, 4 Supremes here.
Right.
I don't know. It's awesome. I want more.
I love the little whacks, too. Surprised to whack, see me?
Yeah, exactly. And that's just how you read it, too. Not half as surprised as whack I am. It's fantastic.
So
why doesn't the lion have some kind of, like, speech impediment?
Because he's not
That's
actually
the
an
only
animal.
roar. There could be roar.
So what's interesting about this scene is that Darius Duck is being brought in as a solution to Mean Supreme. They're basically teaming up because they feel Darius Duck might have the know-how to help them out in their Supreme problem.
Which is a big deal.
I mean,
it's mentioned in the other issue that really there's never that's we've seen Lex Luthor and Superman unite for a common cause or whatever. These characters, since Alan Moore introduced Dax, you've never seen any Dax cooperate with any Supreme. So it is a big deal. It's a cool plot point.
Yeah, and
I was surprised.
I mean, as a reader, I'm looking at this, and he's only cooperating because it's his only chance to kind of beat Mean Supreme and gain an upper hand, kind of, because he knows he's no match for Mean Supreme, because Mean Supreme has no problems just killing him.
and he's a duck.
Yeah, but if down the line he's gonna turn on these guys at the first chance he gets. It's just that kind of MO,
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was actually like, when it was Darius, when it was Darius Duck, I was surprised. I was like, whoa, cool. Sadly, knowing that they only had the one issue to go, I wasn't like pumped, but like,
Yeah.
it was a good twist. I thought he was just gonna show up in the book later just to be like, a backstabber at the worst moment. Seeing them team up was awesome. So
Yeah.
I was kind of like, that's cool.
And then
So
we see that. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Yeah, we cut to the aftermath of the Supreme fight, and they're both Supreme and Omni-Man are both unconscious. And then throughout the issue, we've seen these little space flying cameras. If you paid attention, there was usually one in most of the fight scenes at least once. And so one of them, many of them uncurl tentacles and pick up Supreme.
I like the design on those. It's simple, but it's cool.
Right.
That's all. I don't have anything else.
And then they take him up, I guess, to a spaceship, and there's this guy, of which I have no history with.
That's
The Son of Chrome.
Yeah, Son of Chrome. He appeared in. I have like the first 5 issues of the original Supreme, 5 or 6, maybe more. But Chrome was on the cover of actually one of the original Supremes, and I actually looked him up on like, I don't know, Comic Vine or one of those websites, and he only made that one appearance in the book on one issue, and it's one of the issues I have from like whatever 1994 or
What
whatever.
happened to him? Did he get blasted in half in one panel?
I don't even remember. I have it in a long box buried somewhere. I have to go like dig through and find it. I didn't bother to read it, but he was Chrome, which looks pretty much like Chromium, a little bit different. It's got that same looking face and everything like that. But if you do like if you look on Comic Vine or one of those kind of comic databases under the original Supreme volume, you'll see like the 4th or 5th issue or something as Chrome on the cover.
Okay.
Amongst the original Supreme villains, he was one of the better, like a lot of the early Supreme villains were kind of lame, to be honest. Like, no match at all. So he was, at least in terms of appearance. I mean, I remembered Chrome after all those years. So when I saw Son of Chrome was coming, I was like, well, that's cool. So he, at least of the Supreme, like, I think Supreme fought Thor, and I don't know. Like I said, he never had a really killer good enemy, so
Right.
It was cool. It was cool to see his son there. It was kind of like we touched on with the recap, like Erik Larsen, having some generational aspects to his characters. It was neat that this was Chrome's son. He didn't just bring back Chrome.
Right. Now, that concludes this issue. Chromium has captured Supreme and presumably has nefarious plans for him next issue. What I find interesting overall about this issue is that they never really bring up the fact that we all thought would be dealt with, is how Omni-Man, of course, is a character that Ethan Crane created as a comic book character.
I know.
But it was never even nodded to or acknowledged.
Yeah, that's weird.
So
I wanted that to be touched on.
And just to skip back, Chrome appeared as Chrome the Conqueror in issue 4 and issue 5 of the original Supreme. And you can see that on the comicvine.com website.
All right.
If anyone's interested, you can see how they look very similar.
At least compare them visually.
So sorry. Anyway, I just wanted to get that off.
So yeah, this was a pretty good issue overall in terms of bang, boom, ho-ha action.
Yeah, there's a lot of fisticuffs, but there was a lot to talk about, as we just did. But
yeah,
there's a lot
if
to,
any of it was
think
coherent,
about.
because all this Supremacy stuff gives me a headache sometimes.
It's tricky. It's a tricky concept, mainly in the fact that it was never fleshed out to begin with.
Right.
So when I say they never talked about their life in terms of comics, like, it could actually, if you want to just accept it that way, it could be that in this iteration, I mean, clearly these guys have been affected by the world they're in.
Right.
I mean, they don't have powers, for one. For two, like Ethan and his girlfriend, like, forgetting each other, I'm forgetting you and all that stuff. So I'm just saying, like, you could just accept the fact that in this version, they remember their lives as comics. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So we should probably move on to the next issue, since we're going to do a double header here. Get them all out of the way.
Finish it up.
68.
Supreme 68. Interesting issue in general. Cover's pretty minimalist with just Chrome punching Supreme in the face.
And Erik Larsen's big ass name on the top. Alone. Yep.
Can I say, I love the way Chrome is posed, like he's running at you.
Yeah.
And Supreme's getting knocked out. It's like he was running to get something and Supreme got in his way.
It is
like,
funky.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
I'm the first one in line for the ice cream cone.
Exactly. Out of the way, Supreme. It's awesome. I do love it. I love it to death.
And of course, there's like some rocks
randomly hanging out.
I love that you can kind of see his toe, like, a little bit in his shoe there, Supreme.
Oh, yeah, he's got that kind of like that double. He's like, what are those shoes called? I can't even remember what they're called. They're like really popular now for running shoes, where you got individual toes.
Ugh, I hate that. That looks so creepy.
Yeah. But yeah, they kind of look like he's wearing cloth booties, I guess.
He's just getting the crap punched out of him.
Yep. Spitting out blood. So we kick off, and first obvious difference is, of course, that Erik Larsen wrote and drew this entire issue himself. This first scene with Ethan Crane submitting art to presumably a comic publisher of the universe.
Mr. Eggberg of Crash Comics.
Crash Comics, yes. It's kind of a minimalist, I guess, approach in the line work here.
Not a lot of line weight.
Very, very pencil thin.
It kind of looks like like a riff on kind of like Bill Sienkiewicz kind of style in a way to me.
Yeah.
He kind of did some stuff in Pop Gun like that too.
Right.
Do you guys like this or?
I like it. I mean, it's different. I think it works. Like you said, he did this sort of artwork with like Pop Gun and Herculean. But in this case, the coloring is doing a lot of the legwork, shading wise, to give it more, I guess, pop.
Right. I really like it because I don't know. It's just another one of the styles that kind of like you never see an artist like a pro such as Larsen use as many different styles.
Right.
Larsen has many kind of different styles of trying, of testing things out and doing things, and even in Savage Dragon he does like a Frank Miller style one time. He'll do an open European style. He'll do like a Jack Kirby style. Like you never really see many pros, use more than one or two different styles. And
You're absolutely correct.
It's pretty neat how Erik does that. On the other hand, you guys can interrupt me or whatever if you have a point to make, but I don't think that this style was right for this book because things were so much tighter with Cory pencil and inks. It's kind of jarring.
It is, and I don't disagree with that. But what I find really interesting is once we get out of this scene where Ethan's basically getting told that his art's no good for modern comics,
right?
Is we jump to a scene with Mean Supreme on Chromium's planet, and that is much more, I guess, Cory style. Lots of thick lines, more rendering.
Yeah,
I love that spread.
Lots of black.
That spread is gorgeous.
And that seems consistent between the two scenes. Basically, any scene where we get the unpowered Supremes has this kind of open, thin, line weight look. And any scene with Supreme,
right?
And any scene with Supreme, Mean Supreme, is like more heavily rendered with the line weight. And I think
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that works going back and forth between the two scenes because it kind of gives it each their own, I guess, style.
But even the fight scenes still seem a little minimalist.
Yeah, probably.
Some of the things. But
compared to what we can do. Yeah.
Right. The thing I feel like is, it's. Don't get me wrong. I like the art, and I like that Erik kind of takes these chances and does these things, and I think it's great. I just don't think he should have done it with this issue. Because there's a lot of people that might like the Supreme character that aren't into like Erik Larsen as an artist, and it's just jarring, like a jarring switch to kind of leave his run on, such a different style. Yeah.
See,
I'll agree.
I disagree, but I'll let Raven say what he wants, his piece.
Well, all I was going to say is that, like, right before the podcast, me and Jim were talking about, like, general reaction that we saw, and one of the things that he said he found on, was it Newsarama or CBR?
Oh, yeah, there was a very scathing review on Newsarama that unfortunately I lost. Let me dig it back up.
The main thing I wanted to point out that Newsarama was that they attacked the art as unfinished. The main thing is that if you read Larsen, like you said, if you're exposed to Pop Gun and whatever else, you're aware that like this, sketchier Pop Gun style it's a thing. It's a choice. And like Jim said, the difference between the fight scenes, even though some of the other Supreme stuff's more scaled back, there's definitely line weight, cross hatching. It's a different approach that, if you read his stuff all the time, you recognize.
Exactly.
But for people, I have to agree, I think, with Craig, is that just in a way there was a point to prove. Or maybe there was no point to prove. Maybe just had nothing to prove to anybody.
Yeah, really, I don't think Erik really gives a shit, honestly. And he's just having...
Sounds like Erik.
I mean, not that he doesn't give a shit about it looking good. I mean, he doesn't give a shit about, people's opinion of his art. I mean, we all know he's a great artist. If he wants to try a different style or approach, he's just going to do it. And if he thinks that's the way he's, is going to have most fun doing something, he's going to do it that way. But, like, what I'm saying is just, like, a lot of these people that read Supreme aren't Larsen fans and don't have that, understanding or that acquired. I don't know if it's an acquired taste of Larsen. I don't think it's so much an acquired taste, but just an understanding that this is a choice that he's making to do it. If he really wanted to make it tight, he could make it tight,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
He did. He wasn't the point. He wasn't cutting corners. He did this intentionally to make these scenes look this way and have the other scenes look this way.
Right.
That was him as a creator making a decision, not cutting corners just to save time.
I saw somebody, and I'm not going to mention whose name it was, but there was a Facebook page where someone was like, it's cool and everything for a 24-hour comic, but it just doesn't look tight enough or it's not the exact words, but it was something to the effect of just for like a published book. And, the other thing is a lot of these guys that are reading this, like they're not into alternative comics or different things. A lot of people out there want to read superhero books and they're used to them a certain way. So, this is not the kind of art you're going to see really in a Marvel or a DC comic. And thank God for that. I'm glad and I'm happy about that, but you're going to have some backlash against it. One of the big things I think, which I think is kind of cool, but it does give it that kind of 24-hour comic feel, is that there's no rulers used, like all of the boxes are just hand-drawn kind of wobbly panels.
I liked that.
Yeah, I like it too, but I could see how somebody would pick this up after, reading the previous issues and be like, well, what the hell is, why is everything so wobbly and it just doesn't look, completely finished.
You raise a good point about the wobbly borders. I mean, I could see that definitely. I think that works with the non-powered Supreme characters with a more thin style, but that's also carried over into the mean Supreme parts that are more rendered. So it is kind of a jarring thing.
Yeah, and again, to stress, I love it. I like seeing this. I mean, it's like I said, this is stuff you won't see at Marvel or DC. An artist taking chances because he can.
Right.
This is.
And I definitely wanted to. I was sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No problem.
No, I was just going to say, I definitely want to say that too. Like for both of them, what they did for the books, it's just a difference of two guys making two different choices. I'm with you guys where I really enjoyed the normal like Supremes having their stuff wasn't all cross-hatched and stuff, superhero style. Because sometimes, even though I loved everything Cory did, sometimes when you see guys just standing around talking in a diner or something, if it's all cross-hatched and rendered like two superheroes beating the crap out of each other, it looks weird.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it just doesn't. You can get away with doing a less superhero style just for people talking to each other. So, I don't know. I liked it. It was definitely good.
Right, yep.
Different but good.
I just think it's unfair that people say it's like unfinished or it's I mean, it's technically good. I mean, no doubt about it. It's on its own, it's good art, but I can understand it jarring with what came before because it's definitely not the way Cory was doing it with the tight renderings and the bold colors and all that stuff.
Like I said, I can understand where people are coming from because there's a lot of people out there just read 95% of what they read is a Marvel book, and most of those artists all have that certain tight style and they're all inked by tight inkers. It's just I think the guys that are going to like this kind of stuff are people that are more open to different kinds of alternative comics, all different types of comics, and can see the value in a different style like that.
That being said, I think that you have to take into account that this is the final issue of his run.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think he intentionally gave it this open, sketchy style to leave his mark on it. I guess to do it his way for once. I don't know if this is the way he would have done it if he was drawing it himself the entire time. But I think it is his way of leaving his mark as the creator of this run.
Right.
I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I did
definitely.
Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just gonna say it's definitely him. Like you can't mistake. He brought it.
It was, I like it. It's visually interesting. I can't say it. I think I said it like this is the third time saying it. It's like it's something that you're not gonna, a style you won't find at the big two. It's a creator that can afford to take a chance and
he's got nothing to lose because the book's over.
Right. I like I like a lot of what he did. That 2-page spread. It's just the colors, the sloppy like ink splatters, the thick lines, the way the aliens look. It's a gorgeous 2-page spread. But you guys notice that guy got his head ripped off and his head is like jammed up his ass?
Yeah, I'm noticing that. Yes.
Glumbutt. It's Glumbutt. He's got a little glum face.
I hate to bring up my iPad again, but with this high resolution picture, I can zoom right in. No aliasing. I can see every detail of his face.
Every ass hair.
Actually, there are a few. There are a few ass hairs, yes.
And the other thing I really, really dig about this that we saw in maybe the first couple of issues of Erik's run of Supreme is the return to drawing Mean Supreme with the kind of Liefeld look. There's no mistaking that Larsen was going for, Liefeld style on Mean Supreme's face on those close-up panels.
Definitely.
Why does Liefeld make Supreme have a baby face as well?
I don't know if it's.
I was commenting to Raven earlier.
Just the way that the eyes a little like further apart and it's just drawn exactly kind of like how Liefeld draws like eyebrows and eyes and. See,
I don't really like how. See, I'm going to criticize Erik's art now because I don't particularly like how he renders Mean Supreme's face.
Mm-hmm.
There was that issue of Invasion, the Invasion arc in Savage Dragon, where there's that one panel of Supreme, and I really thought his design was really off compared to.
Yeah, I agree. That was a bad panel, I thought.
But it seems to be consistent with what he's doing here, design-wise, character-wise. It just seems. But now you say that he might be intentionally aping Liefeld's design.
Yeah, and I think
that would make sense because every other character's face looks fine.
Yeah, look at the mouth on the You Coward panel, where like Supreme is like, you got to flip past the double page spread one page.
Yeah. And
then there's that panel just Supreme's face saying You Coward.
That's totally Liefeld right there.
Totally Liefeld, all Liefeld.
Yeah.
Well, the eyes too far apart and all the eyebrow lines.
Yeah, that's totally Liefeld. That is.
The little like the mouth crease,
yep.
Like.
Yep. It is. I guarantee that's what he's going for.
And
I like Supreme's balding, like his bald head.
Yeah, it's a bit more bald than what Cory was doing. It's like that little tuft of hair in the front is like.
Yeah, I don't like that. I think it's too inconsistent. It's like really thin on some panels, and in that Dragon issue on the Invasion, it was like really thin. It was like.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's I don't know. Just Erik's interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I think it's basing it more on the Liefeld kind of.
Look how damn bald he is on that panel on the top page.
When it's punched,
Pow. Pow! Look how bald. It's like a mohawk. But I love it. I mean, I think it's cool. If you look in the refs on the previous issue, that's how it was in the pencils, apparently.
Yeah.
So Cory's been drawing with too much hair the whole time?
I suppose so. No, if you look at the refs, like there's that page 67, page 4. and he's getting it's the Cape Wedgie panel,
Right.
or the Cape Wedgie splash page.
Yeah.
He's totally got the egg head with just the little like faux hawk up the middle, the little mohawk. I love it. I think it's awesome. The main thing is it makes him look totally different than Ethan or the other Supremes.
Right, and that's the main thing, is that he definitely looks different than the other characters.
He's like an older
That-
Supreme or something.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the thing about Mean Supreme, is that he's supposed to be kind of old, right? Been around forever.
He's
Because Mean Supreme's thing is, right, he's been around since the Golden Age, and he's just gotten harder and harder over time.
well, see, there's where you step into Weird Town, because this is actually the real first Supreme, as we all know here in the real world.
Right.
But First Supreme is running around with the Supremes, like Ethan and them.
Right.
He's the one with the CC Beck eyes.
Yeah,
so
the
in the
original
Alan Moore
Supreme.
run, yeah, he's the original Supreme. So I don't know. I think I'm okay with Mean Supreme having that like thinning hair, because he just seems like a mean old bastard. Isn't Mean Supreme though? Like, wasn't he in World War II and stuff? Like,
Yeah.
there was some of that in Glory, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I believe that's the case. That's what I was commenting on, is that Mean Supreme is supposed to be like 100 years old or older, and that's kind of why he's got the balding thing going on, is it's just his hair's thinning out.
Right.
I like it. I like the egghead.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
We kind of skimmed over it, but Ethan, of course, he got rejected for his art being too nicey nice in an edgy and techno superhero world.
I like that harsh. That editor rips him a new asshole.
And then Ethan rips his own artwork apart and then says, "See, that's what I wanted to do," which is a real asshole thing.
That's great. If you've ever had the pleasure of having your art criticized, most people that are in a position to criticize art on a regular basis,
Right?
they're not there to do you favors
Yeah.
or spare your feelings. That's the way it is.
Have you received a little of that, Raven?
I've received that. You would not believe. We're not talking about internet trolls. You would not believe how amazingly harsh. And like I, had the full college experience, and those guys are there. They're like supposed to tear you a new one and break you down. So even that didn't get to me. You would be amazed how like harsh people can be in real life to your face at like conventions and stuff. Oh my God. So yeah, absolutely. They have this rim job that this editor, that Egbert gives him, accurate.
Well,
That's perfect.
good to know.
That's perfect. Don't get your feelings hurt. You better have thick skin. Don't go ripping your pages up. Yeah, when he ripped them up, and the editor's like, "That's what I wanted to do." I'm like, "Yep, that's right. That's about right."
I like how Eric draws Ethan Crane's glasses kind of just all white, so you can't see his eyes. It's just like a reflection, because it also serves pretty well as like a good disguise. Like, Clark Kent, he doesn't really look much different than with his glasses on than as he is with Superman. But the way that Eric draws Ethan Crane with just kind of like the whited out glasses, they almost serve like a mask.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like almost like the opposite. Like he wears a mask when he is Ethan Crane, and is his real face when he's Supreme. So
Right.
it's just kind of a cool design, to do it that way.
I like glasses as eyes in general, artistically. It just makes a character look, I guess, gives it a little bit more character.
Yeah, separates him
You
from the
definitely-
others.
You definitely never guess he was Supreme in an alter ego.
Yeah, he's not very buff or anything.
He's not looking buff there, is he?
No.
He's actually
Dumpy.
in that. He looks kind of dumpy in like that fifth panel of the second page, all dejected.
I like Egbert's like whaler's beard.
He's got that. What is that?
He looks
Whiskers.
like Herman Melville or something.
It's perfect. It's great. You just can't believe
I-
how bad this artie's looking.
I love
is.
his shoes in like the fourth panel of that page.
I mean that suggestion of shoes.
They're just like they look like high heels or something.
They are. That's awesome. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. So that's what I wasn't indicating he had something to prove or whatever. That came out wrong. I'm just saying that it's funny because that's the kind of thing that like we all know it's just like, whatever, it's shorthand, who
Yeah,
cares?
right.
But that's the kind of thing that, like, you know, somebody that's
Oh, he can't
reading,
draw.
like-
Look how he draws feet.
Exactly,
Shut up.
you know? You can't read, you don't know nothing. I do like that Afro Supreme, she is just totally like,
Rock-
check out her clothes.
Sister
like-
Supreme.
She's like rocking the Erik Larsen woman look.
She is streetwalking it. Got on the tank top, the fishnets.
She's like the blaxploitation Supreme, isn't she?
That's like her entire shtick at this point, isn't it? Is that she's the 70s blaxploitation Supreme, yeah.
Sister Supreme.
And then there's the double page spread of Legend.
Yep.
Like you said.
And it is a pretty cool double page spread. I mean, you got the robots and the alien monsters and the Chromium up on his little hoverboard overlooking the whole thing, and
I just
Supreme.
like the green color of the background is gorgeous.
It's awesome.
It does sort
This
of
is an
highlight
awesome
the
man.
reds. It brings out the reds.
Yeah, yeah.
I think green's like the opposites of red. I'm not sure though. I'm not an artist.
No, I was just gonna say, you just look at like Chromium standing up there on that hoverboard, and like you said, just so simple, and yet you know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It just looks badass standing on that thing, like above everything.
I guess that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is that he's not like, you know, heavily drawn. I mean, he lacks detail, but you don't need detail to know who or what he is or what he's doing. That sort of information isn't necessary on a character that far in the background, whereas Supreme up front, he's more detailed. You get like the little dirt hairs between his muscles, that sort of thing.
Exactly. This is an awesome layout.
It is. I'd love to see the original art, how it looks like in person.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet it's even better.
No, I was just gonna say like the inking style. I love when like Erik does like the inking and he uses his little like knife to kind of like make the little scratches. You know what I'm saying? Like on his black inks, and you just do little scratch lines. I don't know if it's a
You can
knife
see it there
or
on Supreme's leg. I
yeah,
think.
yeah, exactly. I love that.
Oh, is that how that works, or there's that scratches directly into the ink?
Cut right into the board.
I believe that's how he does it. Kind of like
Pretty sure that's how it's done.
Yeah.
But see, that's all the technique that people are saying that this issue lacks. That it's unfinished. Where you see stuff like that, and you obviously know he labored over it for a period of time.
Right.
Because little details like that would not be there if he was rushing it.
Right.
Oh yeah, the little dude's head in the butt. That ain't no rush job. That was some thought. I know that sounds funny, but it's like, you know, he was rendering that and thought to include a joke there. There's all kinds. If you look at this, just this layout, I won't derail us too long, but I'm just saying, if you look at this, look into the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
There's little dudes with their arms up. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff. It's detail rich.
Hell yeah.
It might not be what you're thinking, but it's detail. It might not be like, you know, slick,
Right.
but it's detail rich anyway.
Well, that's the thing. I think, you know, Erik's stuff has way more energy than something that's so tightly rendered. And, you know, some artists, everyone, you know, there's artists out there where people just praise the crap out of them. And I look at it and it's like, there's no life to it. It just looks like, you know, I don't know, a still photo to me.
Like a person who would draw this same scene would do everything they can to not draw the crowd, because they would labor over every character you could see in the crowd.
Yeah,
So
and
they would cut out the majority of it so that they wouldn't have to draw as many people in as much detail. Whereas Erik does a whole bunch of little black blobs to suggest heads, and then puts a few little details in the front row, and that's a crowd.
it's so fluid, and there's just a lot of power behind it. It just, you know, that's stuff that I guess, I don't know, a lot of people just don't get, but I love it.
Me too.
I'm right there with you.
So moving on, we got more fight. I mean, of course, we got Supreme is in like a Coliseum type fight. Chromium is like sicking goons on him. Eventually, Supreme goads Chromium to come down and fight him directly, of which he does. Ba-doom, ba-doom. A lot of that fun left, right action we love.
Yeah, Supreme gets smacked around in this. And Supreme doesn't even get one shot in.
Yeah,
Pow,
that's a good
it's
point,
over.
is that Supreme seems to just roll over and take it in this particular. That's a question, is Chromium actually hurting him, or is he just luring him to a false sense of security before he blows him in pieces?
So, blow by blow, from Chromium punching Supreme, it goes pow, crack, choom, scroom.
Screw him.
And actually, you know what? That's another interesting point, just real quick, is that the sound effects seem much more organic to the art when Erik does it, because I wanted to make a comment in the previous issue where all the sound effects look like they were like a font.
Yeah.
Whereas these ones obviously look drawn in by Erik himself, or perhaps...
I think they're probably still a font, but...
Are they?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Oh, it
They
is Chris Eliopoulos, so maybe.
These definitely have that digital look.
All right, you might be right about that. I don't know, they just seem more varied than they did last issue.
Right.
I did think it's like a lot too to do with that like dynamic, like just the composition. You know, these two beating the crap out of him. We know that Erik can draw the hell out of a fight scene. The colors on this is fantastic. Like you said, like that first panel, just the explosions with the splatters. That's sick.
Yep.
So then we cut back to Sister Supreme and Ethan having a chat at a coffee shop, I believe.
It's such a great turn of events. Yeah, I like the just again the nods of him saying that, you know, they're just acknowledging that you know, Supreme, he lost his supreme powers, it affected his art, you know, all that good stuff. Like you said, he wasn't meant to. He tried to go back to his old life as a comic artist, and he can't, because in this world he's not a comic artist.
Right. Or even if, I mean, he may still have artistic talent, but he relied heavily on his like super speed and his steady hand and his maybe even his like microscopic vision or whatever to be a better artist, and without it he's just not as good.
See, in this page, it's so funny because they really drop kind of, and you know, people want to complain about how this wrapped up or whatever, but he said his goal was to set up the next guy as hard as he could. This is an awesome wrinkle to the whole Alan Moore thing, just where they're sitting there discussing the whole events of what happened with the Supremacy, and it really is different. Like the fact that his run opened with the Supremacy being destroyed,
right?
And then here they are, they're sitting and they're talking, and they're like, well, you know, how do you even destroy, like, Limbo? They're like, you know,
right.
How's that even work?
They're like asking the questions that we as readers have been asking since it got destroyed, because is the Supremacy... Can the Supremacy be destroyed? If it was destroyed, does it renew itself now that a new continuity has taken over?
Well, didn't
See, what
Supreme moved the Supremacy or
he
whatever
threw the Citadel
to the
on the moon.
Yeah, and the portal's on the moon. So I guess what they're saying is, you know, if they die, it might just reappear back in Limbo. Is that? So if you killed all the Supreme versions, they just kind of reform back in Limbo again?
See, that's what they're saying, is that's exactly what this whole like conversation, and it's an awesome, interesting concept. They don't give you the answers. All they do is pose the questions.
They leave it open.
And they leave it open, but like it's a great wrinkle because, you know, the issue begins, you just accept the fact that the Supremacy is destroyed and the portal's on the moon, and I heard people belly aching that he was just, you know, wiping his hands with Alan Moore's run. But like here, clearly, they're addressing the concepts. You know, nothing's been thrown away.
Right.
It's all still there. And in fact, they're adding the wrinkle that like they don't know, because what they're doing by existing in this like universe, it's not really like anything that was done in the old run or ever done before it. So who's to say? Maybe there are other versions of them still in the Supremacy.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
It's cool. It's a cool wrinkle. Whether or not anybody does anything with it, who knows?
So in a interesting turn of events, Sister Supreme and Ethan go for a roll in the sack, which is kind of weird on a couple of different levels.
Getting it on with your parallel self.
Yeah, that's kind of odd. Not to mention the fact that Ethan presumably still has feelings for Diana, so how does that even work?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
It was thrown at him casually.
Is it really cheating if your ex-girlfriend doesn't remember who you are?
Wasn't he supposed to be like a Boy Scout, man? Like this, like
that
Superman?
But
yeah, that's what's so awesome, is that it's just totally unexpected.
But he brings up a point during this scene that apparently there's like millions of variations of Supreme in the Supremacy, or thousands at least.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And
I mean, compared to the old stories.
So that means there'd be multiple versions of Lion-Headed Supreme in the Supremacy, not just one. I guess. I don't know. I don't really know how it works, or how it was presented, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
Right.
They don't try to answer it, and like I said, sadly, Alan Moore's whole run, it was sloppy. They never defined it. But that's basically what he's talking about. Like, even though they're in bed and she tried to loosen him up with a roll in the hay, he still can't stop thinking about it.
Like, he mentions every slight change causes some kind of ripple effect, so that kind of means that every time anything happens, there's multiple possibilities, so therefore multiple Supremes should appear in the Supremacy to represent that. But that just raises further questions.
And it makes my
At least to me, because I think about this stuff all the time.
No, it's good. It's like I said, it's a cool can of worms he's opened. And what's sad is I don't see too many people wanting to continue with something that complex.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I mean, there were people complaining that Erik brushed the Supremacy under the rug and didn't want to deal with it, but here he is trying to extract some sort of rule system for something that Alan Moore laid down. He's not ignoring it; he's actually overthinking it in some respects.
Right.
That's the bummer. I mean, I'm sorry. I hate to be negative, but it was just such a bummer because it was clear that there was all kinds of good stuff still yet that he had in mind to do.
Right. And now we won't get to it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying because it's the final issue that nothing's yet, some of this stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, because that was the thing, is a lot of people, the assumption that it was overlooked was wrong. I mean, here it is. It's clearly being addressed head on. It's in there, and I don't know. It's kind of it's a bummer. It was just hard to not be bummed because I was like, oh.
Well,
nothing was on the cutting room floor though.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I thought Erik's run was gonna run 12 issues at first. In my head, for some reason, I don't know if it's just I just automatically
12 is a nice round number.
Yeah. And then when that didn't happen, it was we're gonna have an 80-page final issue, and we're gonna have a story focusing on each type of Supreme character. So it was oh crap, it makes you wonder what kind of stories he was thinking of. And then it turns out to be a normal size issue, and it's
yeah,
wow, that's a lot to wrap up, or try to at least get to a point where you can pass it on.
And that's the thing. This issue is less of a wrap-up issue and more let me reiterate what things are still relevant, and so the next guy can take them over.
Yeah, and I think that was the complaint on some of the people, in the board and stuff like that on Erik's forums. I think the expectation was that Erik was gonna, give you some kind of conclusion, and like you said, it just opens up more questions. But it's cool because it Erik has stated himself, and we just went over it kind of gives room for the next guy to take it over, because Erik doesn't own the property. You can't really damage or change things when it's not your. You can tell when it's not your property. You can tell a good story, but it's nice to put the pieces kind of back for the next guy to tell his story.
Right.
That's exactly what happened. Is that really, if you've ever read any comic that transitioned from creative team to creative team, there's always that return to the quo.
Right. Or at least eventually,
I mean, he got it as close as he could.
But which status quo? Because Supreme has at least two.
There's definitely the Alan Moore and then the Rob Liefeld. This run
It's been a good
had
hybrid.
the lofty. it had the lofty task of merging those two.
Right.
Alan Moore said countless times that he just threw everything out because he hated everything that came before it.
Mm.
This was actually an incredibly awesome way to not disregard the stuff that came before it. So, people should have been totally down. This 5 issues, man, it had a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think it did really good considering all the crap it had to deal with.
It was definitely one of the more entertaining series of the last 6 to 9 months.
Right.
Definitely. And it definitely gets me interested in reading more stuff, Erik, that isn't Savage Dragon now his Ant project.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Which, now that Supreme's over, that's kind of the next big non-dragon thing.
Yeah.
So we should wrap up this issue. We're getting there.
We're getting sentimental, Jim. It's the last issue.
It is. We're running out, and we'll never do it again. Sing a song now.
I like
Freakazoid.
Yeah. I like the panel where it's just Chromium's kind of jets or his little spaceships blasting away at Supreme. And I love Chromium's laugh. Ha ha.
Triumphant, isn't it?
Yes, because lasers from a spaceship are going to destroy Supreme.
I did it.
Ha ha.
Their fight is awesome. This is a great slugfest. There's big puddles of blood on the ground. I was very pleased with this.
Robots and aliens and fire and.
I think my only problem with this is it's kind of a multifaceted problem. Is that we just had a fight issue last issue that was a really good punch down drag out fight, and now we kind of have another going on. It almost feels like overkill.
Mm-hmm.
I got a hunch that this Chromium fight was supposed to be more complex in terms of interaction between the two guys.
Thinking because he had to
kind of got wrap it up.
Yeah.
So it just kind of got reduced to another slugfest.
Right.
In a lot of ways, it feels like it's taking away from non-powered Supreme's story, which probably is more relevant to the overall theme of the run. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's fun to watch Erik draw stuff blow up and burn up and explode. But it does feel like 2 issues in a row of largely the same thing. Because Chromium appears to be at least be able to go blow for the most part. Much like Omni-Man. Well, I say that, and then there's Supreme's fist going through his midsection.
I think it's
a classic.
I think it's more with Chromium that he throws all his minions and his firepower at Supreme. I mean, he does get a few good punches in there. I mean, he's no slouch, but I think a lot of his attack on Supreme is from, his minions.
Minions just getting in the way.
Which, by the way, I love that there's a panel in here where he's just Supreme's using his heat vision, just blasting everything, and I love when Erik does the kind of close up on the guy screaming in the front of the panel, as Supreme's just murdering everyone. You just see the guy screaming into the panel.
Doom, 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 doom.
I hate Mondays.
No, I think too, if you want to talk about the jobs that had to be done, honestly, this issue is showing Mean Supreme at some of his most awesome. And really, even the fight between Omni-Man, him being someone else's property, you knew he wasn't going to punch his guts out or anything crazy. It's sad but true. You know that he can't do any lasting, damaging, permanent thing. So I think it was important to have this slugfest, even though there was one in the previous issue, because in this fight, even though it seems fairly mindless, because, spoiler alert, he just totally obliterates everyone and everything, it not only establishes that this Mean Supreme is still absolutely about killing you and just writing you off. He doesn't want to leave loose ends. He wants to, take care of people for good.
Hey, he doesn't even want your planet to be around.
Scorched earth.
Yeah.
Doesn't even want. Yeah. So he murders the guy, kills blows his whole planet up, throws the guy in the sun. I mean, I think that even though there was a slugfest, that was a fantastic way to illustrate, to whoever comes up next.
Just how dangerous and extreme Mean Supreme is.
Well, yeah, because like I said, power, like displaying his power levels, nowhere else in this 5-issue run had you seen this. A lot of people never read Mean Supreme from the 90s, so just how powerful is he really? He's blow your damn planet up powerful.
Ah.
Yeah.
So that's what I think that fight was really about.
That's a very good point, and I think I can accept this fight a little bit better now. Good job, Raven.
That's all I was thinking is, like I said, you just got to remember that it's the setup issue, and that explains so much of what happens.
Right.
Like not giving you answers to the, like, hey, what happens with Limbo? We don't know. It's really not there to help you. It's just there to set up groundwork. I'm a Supreme nerd, probably. I'm sorry. I love Supreme. I always thought he was kind of awesome, so
He is.
I'm into it. I'm so sad this is ending.
Yeah. So we get back to the non-powered Supremes, and there Darius Duck is trying to train them how to fight Supreme, which I assume Darius Duck has more experience with. He's got this fancy Iron Man type armor.
I love it. When I first saw that third panel, I just thought they were all wearing like those Hulk gloves.
Hulk gloves? You just went to Walmart and bought Hulk gloves?
Hulk hands?
Murder mitts.
I love that they were murder mitts. Isn't that hilarious? Aren't they like power gloves?
Yeah. Did you notice that Squeak's got one with only like 4 fingers?
They've only got 4 fingers. You're right. That's funny.
I didn't notice that. That's good. Good looking out.
So apparently the way the mitts work is that they absorb the power of whoever they capture. So they wrap up Darius Duck in his armor and presumably absorb a little bit of power armor power just to test it out. So the theory is that if they can get their mitts, their murder mitts on Mean Supreme, they can get a portion of their Supreme power back, which is a good theory. But and they all seem good. They all seem like they're excited about it. But Mean Supreme's kind of fast.
Yeah. They acknowledge that.
Like you're decapitated before you blink fast.
Look at the panel. There's a panel where like all the Supremes have got their murder mitts wrapped around Darius Duck, and just read those the two speech bubbles.
You got whack.
You got whack me. That was yeek.
I wanted to comment on how Squeak looks, because we were talking about how Squeak looked in the previous issue.
Mm-hmm.
Eric's version of Squeak is a lot different than Cory's. I mean, he's got like dot eyes and like a huge mouth.
Yeah, smaller ears.
The Mickey Mouse ears, though. This is one of those instances where I think not having as slick a rendered style can be a benefit. It helped with Squeak's face.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it helped a lot.
Right, because it could be as cartoony as you imagine, as opposed to being defined in one way or the other.
Right.
But these 2 pages are kind of interesting because it sets up that they've got this possible solution, but then we cut back to Mean Supreme basically destroying Chromium and throwing him into the sun and blowing up his planet.
I love that.
I
love that panel, by the way.
Yeah, just throwing Chromium into the sun?
No, the panel just like it's just panned out and you just see the freaking planets destroyed and there's just like little like skeletons and just everything's on fire and just looks like crap.
It's awesome.
And then, Chromium's like begging to just kill him, and you can tell he's like completely broken because everything he ever had and everyone who ever known is dead, and it's his fault.
And there's a crazy life-ailed face again.
It will be my pleasure.
And then
he runs him through the earth.
Yeah, I love the way.
Well, that's right. He goes down, so he must have went through the entire planet.
Yeah, it just
goes down. That's what's happening.
That's so overkill.
It's great though. That panel with him just like clutching Chromium flying through after he just busted through the planet. Chromium's face looks really cool, and then he just flings him. I love that panel. Like you just see you can just see the motion in it of him just flinging it, and you just see like Chromium's feet, and then he's just heading towards the sun. It's just It's a great like series of panels. Just really flows.
It's wicked. I mean, this whole fight sequence is just, like I said, if nothing else, just to show just how badass Mean Supreme really is.
And is it
like
me?
why?
And is it me, or is he smiling in that third panel?
Yeah. After he
he
tosses him into the sun and you just see the skeleton, he has a little smirk.
I love it.
Today was a good day.
Right. Now he's heading back to Earth, presumably.
Well, that's the thing. We don't really know where he's headed. He's in space. Does he know how to get home, or is he lost, or what?
You get the idea he was teleported to Chromium's world. We don't know anything about that, so yeah, it's totally up in the air.
Because we get back to Earth, and apparently it's been months since their training, and Mean Supreme has never come back. Oh wait, or weeks, not months. Sorry. Still, it's been a month.
Yeah, you're right. Weeks, I mean, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
So the non-power Supremes have basically come to the conclusion that maybe fighting Mean Supreme on even ground is not a good idea, now that they've had some time to think about it. And
and they reiterate again, they're really all about Ethan's theory that the Supremacy still exists.
Apparently getting to the moon is now their primary goal.
Being here at the end of the issue... Oh, wait. No, this will be better said after we look at that last page.
Okay. But
so I'll save it.
But Darius Duck is a little disappointed that everyone's given up.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. Hey, Supremes. Whack. Just there is that panel where he's just like, whack.
Yeah.
Not saying a real word.
Ducks, they're funny. But then we turn the page, and Diana has returned. Diana Dane, Supreme's old girlfriend, and she's visiting Suprema in the hospital, who's still pretty busted up. Apparently, Diana is starting to recall memories of her past with Supreme. And what was I going to say? And apparently, did you want to talk about this, Raven?
All I was going to say is that is what is so awesome about what happened here, is that this page of her coming back and she's getting her memory back.
Right.
That just seals the deal on that whole, like, these are characters that, like, exist outside of revisions.
Right.
And they know another revision is coming. In fact, she's getting her memories back.
Is that what happens? Is you start getting your memories back before the revision occurs? That there were revisions in the past?
Well, see, in the Alan Moore issues, there was nothing like this, so there was no precedent.
Right.
So in this 5-issue arc, these characters are all doing unprecedented things, right?
Okay.
So they fell out of the Supremacy unprecedented. What happens? There's a revision. Mean Supreme is the Supreme now, but these guys that are from what should be outside of this reality are in it. You see them kind of sort of start to forget things. Never was it more like than with like Supreme's girlfriend, Diana Dane, walking off and saying, I'm already starting to forget you. Here she is, this last panel, coming back saying she's starting to remember. What's so awesome is that these are characters that know a revision is starting to come. So it's a cool thing. Like I said, it's not really anything any other comic that I know of has done or is doing.
Right.
So, creative teams are going to change. Erik's off the book. But it's cool because these characters are remembering. They realize that they're out of this world and they're starting to be affected again by the oncoming creative team.
But the thing you didn't bring up was the big reveal is that Diana's pregnant, presumably with Ethan Crane's kid. And I kind of assume that because she was impregnated by the previous revision is what's causing her to remember. Is that now she's tied into his story again, and so...
See, and that's what's cool, is that she is tied into his story again. The way a revision would have affected you is that, like, you just would have fit into the new world, right?
Right, your memories would have been changed, your... Whatever history would need to be changed would have been changed, and you wouldn't have been aware there was ever a revision in the first place.
Exactly. You get the idea here with being like, oh, and I'm pregnant. It's kind of like... These characters are becoming unaffected by this revision here. They're starting, she's getting her memories back. Basically, this ties really well into Ethan's theory that the Supremacy's still out there existing outside of revisions like it always was.
Right. Okay.
So I hope that makes it easy to understand. It's a really cool plot twist.
Right. And of course that concludes the Erik Larsen run on that moment. And I guess the entire point is that Erik wanted to end his series on an open ending so that whoever comes next can follow it up if they so choose.
Right.
I mean, I believe he mentioned elsewhere that the whole reason he put Mean Supreme in space is that if the next writer didn't want to deal with Mean Supreme, he can just have him lost in space.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And never talk about him again.
I think he said
the only
that
problem
in Q&A.
with that is how are those guys going to get their powers back? Yeah, to figure a way.
Right.
But, I mean,
If
it leaves it
the new
open.
writer-
Someone will figure a way to do it, you know?
It's cool because if the new writer wants to address all this Supremacy nonsense and stuff, they can.
Right.
Or they can you can just as easily wipe it all away by just saying, hey, another revision came and everything was replaced.
Right.
No Mean Supreme, no Ethan Crane, nothing.
The first page of issue 69 of Supreme is just going to have Diana Dane walking out of an abortion clinic and you just never see her again.
She makes a deal with the devil to get rid of the baby.
Something I wanted to quickly touch upon, of course, we all know that Supreme probably isn't going to be continued anytime soon, or if it is, we don't know who's going to be doing it. You guys remember when, what's his name?
Tom Scioli.
Tom Scioli was making suggestions that he wanted to take it over, but that didn't happen, or at least it hasn't happened
we don't
yet.
know. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. But have you guys been reading his webcomic recently, his new one?
I haven't read his recent one. Was it something with Satan?
Satan Soldier?
Yeah, I haven't read the most recent one.
The thing about Satan Soldier is it's kind of a Superman type story.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to maybe this is his outlet.
Oh, he's using what you...
Not necessarily what he was going to do with Supreme, but at least gets his Superman type character ideas out there. Because it kind of has a Supreme type bent where the main character, I don't think he's really named, but Satan Soldier is probably a good bet as his name. Basically, he's very brutal and very dangerous. So
that's awesome.
I'd recommend checking it out.
I want to read that.
I like
that'll be my Supreme 69.
Did you guys read the letters column to this Supreme 68?
I did skim them.
I
definitely read.
There's one funny thing that Erik kind of is a little mess up. He's like, Erik says, I'd like to thank Rob Liefeld and Eric Stevenson for all the support, Alan Moore for the lead in Supreme, Cory Hamscher for the finishes on 63 to 67, Steve Olaf for the colors, Chris Eliopoulos for the splendid colors, and every one of you for giving Supreme a shot. So he thanks Chris Eliopoulos for the splendid colors, even though Chris is the letterer.
The letterer.
I saw that.
He said splendid, superb colors and splendid colors.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Thanks Steve Olaf for superb colors and Chris for splendid colors.
He meant splendid letters.
Yep.
Whoops.
Olaf does superb colors. We know Chris does splendid.
I do like he put a little blurb at the end that says, next, a new creative team in a bold new direction.
So,
Even though he has no idea.
Well, I mean, that might have come from Rob Liefeld. You might have asked him to put it in there or something.
Maybe. I think it's just a little touch that the entire point was to leave it, again, open-ended, like Alan Moore did. I mean, Alan Moore intentionally left it open-ended for the next creative team to pick up from. And that's what Erik did here, is he left the story seeds are still there. If you want to pick up on them, you can.
Yeah, I guess I took that literally. I guess I was just hoping that there would be a 69 around the corner. So, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
It's true. He could have just put that in there, and it would make total sense.
So looking back at everything, I would have to say that I totally thought that this was, I'm going to say, for what it was, given the time that it was allowed, I would have to say, as high as regard as I hold Alan Moore's run, because he really did take a nothing character and make a big something out of it. I think Cory and Erik are both to be commended because, like I said, this is not an act really anybody wanted to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
And they did awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
like I said, I have no interest in Supreme, but I love this series.
I like this series. I felt like it sputtered towards the end, if I have to be totally honest, just because I think it's not anyone's fault. I think just the sales weren't there. But I was hoping for, like I said, at least like a year worth of Erik on Supreme and a lot of the story fleshed out more. So I enjoyed it all. I think having that big gap between, I forget which 2 issues it was. Was it 67 and 66?
The Omni-Man.
That sucked.
Yeah, we had to wait forever for that.
That sucked, and I think that kind of lost a lot of the momentum of the issue. But
yeah, it definitely probably put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, you can't delay like that, like on a book that's not doing too good anyway.
Yeah.
And it's too bad because the first 4 issues all seem to come out on time.
Yeah.
But that's the way of things. I guess at that point the sales were dropping off and it just wasn't profitable to light a fire under it. So other stuff had to take priority, and here we are.
I've never had a monthly deadline like these guys, so I'm not pretending like I know what they're in. But I have had to work on something that was not financially helping you out at all.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're still killing yourself because you want it to look good, and it's not like paying your bills or whatever, but it's still eating up a lot of your time. And it's hard. I mean, it's just the reality of things. It's hard to get enthusiastic. It's hard to bring your A game. It's so many complexities go into it. So I don't really hold anybody like I'm not mad at any one party. If people had, I am gonna attack people. I'm gonna attack people. You listen up, world. This is you. It's your turn now. No, there was so much stupidity against Rob Liefeld for these Extreme relaunches.
Yeah,
and
Erik touched on that too. Remember?
Yeah, and that just killed me because Glory, which is amazing, is ending. Supreme, which was a great ride, is ending. And it was just, I would think a lot of it was stupid prejudice.
And Bloodstrike with, Tim Seeley that's getting turned over to Liefeld. I think, sales probably have to do something with that, because if that book was setting the world on fire, he'd still be on it. Most likely. So now we're losing Glory. We lost Supreme. Bloodstrike's going over to Liefeld. I'm not, I like Liefeld's creations, but I'm not a big fan of Liefeld's art and his writing. So I don't know if I'll stick around for that. I did not like the Youngblood series. I tried the first 3 issues, and I thought the writer was horrible on it. It was like the writer of Black Swan or something, some Hollywood type that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he ain't a Hollywood type. He did The Wrestler and he did Black Swan. Those are not, quote-unquote, Hollywood movies. They were fairly indie.
But he wasn't a trained comic writer, and it was obvious.
Yeah, that's true.
It was obvious when you read it. And the funny thing is, I listened to some of the podcasts on Image Addiction where they interviewed the penciler. I forget his name. And he was actually even kind of busting on the writer, being like, some of this stuff just didn't make sense. You could tell the guy didn't, hadn't written for comics before.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, there is some overlap between writing for the screen and writing for comics, but they are very different beasts.
So, I mean, the only saving grace is that Prophet is still around.
So Prophet's still doing good?
I don't know if it's
by doing good, it's selling 6,000 copies and dropping by the month.
For American comics, that's a barn burner.
So, we'll see where that book ends up in the next few months.
Yeah. I want to say that, I hate the fact, though, that, stupid hate, to blindly hate on something because it is even associated with someone.
Yeah.
People denied themselves, definitely a treat with Supreme. Glory was my favorite book of 2012.
Yeah, I agree. And didn't Erik say hell yeah, sold, way more copies than Glory?
Yeah, I think
and
Erik
that is
said
utter
that.
insanity.
Yeah.
It is crazy. I mean, just today, somebody, well, I guess it wasn't today. I guess now I'm looking at it. It was a month ago. But some guy posted a post on comic book resources forum asking specifically who gets money from Glory and Prophet, because he doesn't want to give Rob Liefeld any money
Oh my God!
And that is the reason he gave for not reading those books, is because he doesn't want to put money in, quote unquote, that classless jerk Liefeld.
That's despicable. That's so despicable.
Funny thing is too, because
Liefeld
is such a nice guy. For all the shit that he gets, and as much as he gets shitted on,
most people wouldn't be that nice.
But he really is a nice guy. Like, you might hate his work or whatever, but you can talk to him at a convention. He's a nice guy. I mean, he has every right in the world to be an asshole the way like people talk so much crap on him.
If I was hated as much as he was, I'd be a total asshole.
Yeah. I mean, I posted here, basically I called the guy out saying it was pretty scummy to call Liefeld classless, considering he's giving all these creators free reign to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I got a response right now, like 5 minutes ago, that says, yes, but if you overlook his entire career, he has shown no class in the 90s or today. One good act doesn't remove his entire career of classlessness. Now, I'm no expert because I'm not a fan of Liefeld, but I'm pretty sure he was fairly consistent in getting books done on time and working with other people. I would never call him classless. Maybe talentless, but not classless.
Can I say that...
I wouldn't say he gets books out on time either, but anyway.
He doesn't?
No, he's actually terrible for deadlines, I think.
Okay.
And he also quits books a lot.
Oh, well, maybe that's it then.
I mean, he's got his rep for a reason. It's not coming from nowhere. Right. But at the end of the day, these books suffered pointlessly. They were some of the finest books to come out in 2012, and
top 10 material.
It is absolute foolishness. Comic Book Girl 19 did this big thing on Glory, and she's super enthusiastic and happy about it. And then you get to the end of her show, and she's like all crying because she's like she just at the end of the show like heard that it was getting canceled.
Oh, jeez.
And it stinks. I'm saying it was really quality. There was nothing like it. And for people to hate it for such dumb reasons, I'm sorry. It is foolish to just turn your nose up at something without like giving it a chance.
Yeah. That being said, I'm pretty sure Joe Keating said that he only planned to do 12 issues anyway. So it isn't so. I mean, the sales weren't there to continue, but I don't think he had plans to continue anyway.
Oh, really?
That takes the sting off.
Because I believe that's what I read in an interview. I don't know if he's just saying that because the book got canceled and wants to let people down easy, or if that was actually his plan. But my gut says he planned 12 issues, and that's what we got.
That helps.
So
I was bummed.
Expect a proper ending, I guess.
Yeah, I was bummed thinking there were untold tales. But that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So should we?
So this episode has been going on forever. So let's wrap this up. I assume next time we're going to be talking about Savage Dragon 180 number.
180 number.
Sorry,
184.
Good grief.
Which will be dealing with Savage Dragon and his trial, or at least the beginning of his trial. And we'll also have the conclusion of the Vanguard serial, which will be pretty sweet.
Very
Hopefully
exciting
we can
stuff.
get that turned around quick, because that issue is already out, and we have that in our hands.
Yep. So expect to hear about that in the next month. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So with that, we wrap it up. And thanks for listening in. And we'll talk to you next time. Well, talk at you next time, because this is a podcast.
We'll fake some parts where we're pretending to interact with you, like, and what was your favorite book?
Mr.
Oh, really?
Wrong.
What was your favorite book? Mr. Black.
Exactly. Oh, what book did you like in 2013?
The Savage FINcast is a part of the Gutter Trash Network and the Image Addiction family of podcasts. It can be found at either fincast.guttertrash.net or imageaddiction.net.